Hello, and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I am Kellie De Leon with Treasure Data, and we are partnering with CDO Magazine, MIT CDO IQ, and the International Society of Chief Data Officers in a series of interviews. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Ghadi Hobeika, Managing Partner at Artefact. Welcome.
Thank you, Kelly.
I know it's something that you're passionate about. I'd love for you to kind of just share from your perspective why customer centricity is so paramount and, particularly related to the economic climate and pressures that folks are feeling in business today.
Yeah, listen, it's my personal experience both as a consultant but also an industry professional that what I've seen in my career is that companies try to rely mainly or initially on a very highly product-centric approach. Like since inception, they create a product, they hire people to work on the product, they keep like a big a big focus on that. And most of their investments go towards product development, sometimes research and development, etc. And funny enough, what I've seen, and that's also maybe the reason why I've been hired a couple of times, is when they feel that the market becomes tougher, that competition grows, that growth slows, that profitability takes a hit, then they start thinking a little bit more about, okay, wait a second, we probably have forgotten to investigate about consumers or take care of them. And this is where they start staffing up, investing a little more money around what one could call customer centricity, or at least teams that understand the customer and work closely with the customer, right? Now, I tend to think that it might be a mistake to oppose those two cultures, because at the end of the day, what you want is literally a company that understands, listens, and takes feedback from customers, a company that understands future trends, needs, and wants, and that is able to synthesize and infuse that into a product roadmap that makes more sense, deliver products that are loved, used, utilized by consumers. So maybe the best way to frame it, or the best of both worlds, would be sort of a consumer or customer infused product culture. Mm-hmm. I think that's what companies need the most. One is not more important than the other, but developing product in silo doesn't work, and having a lame product to bring to customers doesn't work either. So it's the combination of the two that is going to make a difference.
Yeah, I like thinking about them as not being particularly two opposites or opposing things, or choose one or the other, but how do they really complement and become one strategy? Exactly. That makes a lot of sense. Well, let's take that one step further. If we're talking about kind of having a customer obsessed culture, how can companies use data, or how can data enable a brand to really deliver a really great customer experience and to be customer centric? So where does data fit in that story of the customer focused product culture?
Good job, Katie. So listen, I think it fits really, really well. The reason why I'm saying that is it's always been the case. Nothing has really changed. Like, data has been used for decades by companies to inform product and innovation roadmaps, to inform go-to-market strategy, to inform advertising campaigns, to even measure some of these advertising campaigns, maybe in the offline world and then in the digital space. I think what has changed, and you're right, is the complexity, the variety, the freshness, right, and the volume of the data that they have to collect and they have to use or want to use and analyze to just craft those strategies and increase their consumer or customer centricity. So in a landscape that's saturated and highly competitive, it's not about who uses data and who doesn't, but I would say who uses best in the current context. At the scale, with the level of automation and sophistication that a company needs to sort of service the customer correctly, and to do that consistently across channels, right? So this is where technology comes handy. This is where, on the consumer side of the world, CDPs are a really good tool, right? Because they enable effectively many of these activities. They enable them at scale, but they also sort of force company into evolving their ways of working, their talents, their skills to sort of cope with that complexity. So data as enabler, it's the connective tissue behind those consumer experiences, that's for sure. It's just the way, it's just a question of mastering them. And that's the biggest challenge today.
Mm-hmm. That is a great opportunity to kind of transition into a couple more questions along a different category, which is really kind of taking it to the next level and talking about advanced analytics and things like artificial intelligence, machine learning that obviously do then allow that level of, automation and scale and so many things that can really accelerate where a brand can get with their data and data science. So continuing along that thread, when talking about kind of customer obsession and customer experience, how can artificial intelligence and machine learning enable brands to really be able to properly decipher and activate their data to really truly be customer obsessed and deliver that to customers?
So I think that those sort of technologies or techniques or methodologies come in handy in two cases. I think case number one is there's no way a very, very efficient organization can deal with this growingly complex and large amount of data at scale by using traditional techniques or manual techniques or semi-automated techniques. So AI and ML are great because they come in and do the job faster, do the job cheaper, and sometimes do the job better than any other human could do it, or any sort of traditional data manipulation, data modeling techniques could do. So I think it's what I'm trying to say here is that number one, it's a necessity. You can't deal without them in today's world. It's really hard, especially if you're a large and complex organization. I think number two, which is more of the innovative side of it, AI and ML sort of push the technological barriers and open new avenues for marketing professionals, but also other professionals in the space, because it allows you to look at things in a way you could have never done it before. Predictive analytics, scenario modeling, hypothesis building, automation, like all of these things are things that you could literally couldn't do before or couldn't do at that level of scale and complexity. So 10 years ago, you dealt with 2, maybe 3 sales channels. You dealt with a couple of media platforms. You dealt with a small variety of content formats, and you dealt with simple reporting. Today, we're asking you to deal with 5x, 10x that complexity, but also to be able to predict or allocate budgets or forecast really efficiently, to be able to match in the marketing space or have an idea of what your unknown visitors and unknown traffic is looking for and trying to predict the best action to do that. It's impossible to do without AI and ML, just literally impossible. And obviously it requires more than that. So I think that even if today 15% of organizations are using AI at scale, I think I've read that number lately, it's going to grow. It's going to grow bigger. And I think that AI and ML adoption and its deployment in companies and organizations is just never going to stop. We're only at the very beginning of it.
So I want to thank you so much, Ghadi, for joining me today. I really have enjoyed our conversation.
Same here, Kelly. Thank you very much for your perspective on the business, the great conversation, and your thoughtfulness and thoroughness in asking and preparing those questions. So thank you very much. I enjoyed it.
Absolutely. So, and you can also visit cdomagazine.tech for additional interviews.